Great.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Drew Dutcher. I'm the current president of INC. It's great to see everyone. This is our first in-person meeting post-COVID, so this is a great turnout. We have a great meeting starting today. We're going to start off with the land and equity acknowledgement, and we have a volunteer to read that. Is that Joanna Science, our delegate at large?
Good morning, everyone. So our land and equity acknowledgement, the land acknowledgement, as residents of Colorado, we stand on the unceded ancestral land, the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Lakota, and Ute nations and people. These lands were also a site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other indigenous tribes. We recognize Native and Indigenous people as the original stewards of this land, and our presence among their descendants who still dwell within it. We pay our respects to the Indigenous and Native elders, past and present. Equity acknowledgement. We acknowledge that racial justice, equity, and climate justice are inextricably intertwined, and that poor, vulnerable, and primarily Black, Indigenous, and people of color disproportionately bear the burden of climate change impacts and environmental justice due to the lingering effects of systemic discriminatory practices. We commit to doing our part to ensure that when taking any action to address climate change and create a regenerative future, we will respect, promote, and consider our respective obligations concerning all aspects of equity and strive to create systems in which everyone can thrive.
Thank you, Joanna. Joanna is a So we have a couple announcements today. First, this first meeting is being hosted by the Montclair neighborhood, and our delegate at large from the Montclair neighborhood is Judy Baxter. She is welcome us in a moment, but also we have an open seat for the secretary of AIM, and I've appointed Judy Baxter as the secretary. She does it. I think we're having a vote of acclamation today.
Yeah.
And so, Judy, would you like to just say a few words to welcome us to Montclair and tell us about?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the historic Montclair community. And this is the Mulkery, or the Montclair Civic Center, that we are so lucky to have be part of how we can thrive as a neighborhood organization. Denver Parks, we have this great relationship, and this is our meeting home. This is our meeting park, and it's a wonderful community, and I invite you to learn about it and to come and enjoy this park and the things that we do here. So and we're also the oldest neighborhood in Denver, the oldest officially neighborhood in Denver, 130 plus years. We have been a recognized neighborhood in Denver, and we take that very seriously. And so being part of history, but also part of making history is sort of what we want to be about. And supporting INC is part of that. It's part of supporting the larger Denver. Thank you all for coming. This is our first rodeo back. Just saying, with having you all here in person, it's great. I think we've got about 25 people online. So it's a good sized meeting that we're having. It's a sweet meeting, and it's not going to be without little glitches here and there, but your grace and patience are very much hoped for and requested. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. So I don't, the agenda, we have that up
I don't know if I can go back to
I think, do we need to have it vote for Greg?
So we accept the
Yeah.
secretary with acclamation.
Seconded, sir.
Okay, do we have any discussion or?
Just that Judy's been fantastic in putting this meeting together, all the food, all the arrangements. We're really excited for her to,
I've proved myself.
yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very lucky. I'm not an expert in parliamentary procedure. Can we just take a vote then? I think, and we have it online, as you know, we have an online audience of what, maybe 20,
Yeah.
25 people, so. Everyone, and you're watching online, and everyone in favor of Judy Baxter as Secretary of INC, and you need to be a delegate to vote. So please raise your hand. So we'll count the room.
I'll try to count.
Okay, so
Count the room.
I'll count the room.
Yeah.
Okay. Please. Yeah, hold on. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, I got 18.
There's 9 online guesses.
18 and 9, 27.
Yeah.
Okay, 27 in favor. Okay, anyone opposed? Okay, anybody?
There's
No,
no
you know, like,
opposition.
any abstentions? I guess. Okay, Judy Baxter. Do you have the agenda on the, because I can't
Right.
remember. I
Right.
think we've got, okay. Okay, so the next thing on the agenda, Jane Potts has been, we're bringing back the annual awards dinner for Inc. And that's something that was kind of the highlight of the year. And Jane Potts has worked hard in the past on that. And I think you have an announcement, Jane.
That I'm nuts.
You're crazy to do it, yeah.
So a few years ago, when I said
Yeah.
I'd never take this on again, here I am. But I believe that the strength of INC is recognizing the people who've done outstanding things in their community and rarely get recognized. So the most important part of the INC awards is recognizing these people. So we've done it in the past, we're going to do it again, and we're sort of figuring out some of the details. But the awards will be for people who've done something the last couple of years. So this event will probably be in September, a fall event. Probably be a little easier than the nights that we've come out of the awards dinner to find 5 inches or 8 inches of snow on the top of our cars. So that probably won't happen in September. We're looking at September 30th. We're looking at September 30th, what did I say? Can't read my own writing. And it will be at Raizi's Brewery on West Colfax. It's a very casual place. It's a big brewery. It's all windows, just like this place. The lovely windows make it so wonderful. It's all windows. It's big and open. And we are looking at hiring Serendipity Catering. Serendipity Catering was the first catering company to be founded by a sustainability expert. It was the first company to receive the City of Denver's Green Innovator Award. It was the first catering company to receive the Certifiably Green Denver certification, and the first catering company to win the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's National Food Recovery Challenge winner of 2016. So we're really trying to integrate some of the things that we've recognized during the pandemic that we could probably do a better job of. We can be a little bit more relaxed with our awards. We can have recognition of a broader diversity in our community and a recognition of more sustainable partners. So if you'd like to get involved, my name is on the website. You can contact me. We'll need some help doing a silent auction and putting together the awards. But I invite all of you to set September 13th aside for this. And in order to be, to nominate somebody for an award, you need to be a member organization. And in order to attend, you'll need to be a member. So thank you all, and we'll see you in the fall.
Thank you, Jane.
More than one from our neighborhood.
You know, last time we had 310 people. This place is sort of limited at 250. There's a big patio. We're going to sort of work with it, but there might be some limitations. So
Yeah, any other questions for?
Thanks for all that work.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Jane.
it was Keith who found the location.
I'm really excited. I've been there a few times. This is amazing.
I have
facility,
too.
and it's really great. And I think we're really excited that it's local, minority owned business that we can support and really try to get back out into the community. Can you put Jane's email in the chat?
Yeah.
So if anybody, we definitely need help. If
Right.
anybody, would like to be involved, we need to get more sponsors. talk to community members, community leaders about coming, and help with, getting all the arrangements set up for the day of. So we would love to have help, and Jane would be more than happy to connect with anybody about that if you're online or here in the room. Afterwards.
Yes, Jane will need some help, so. George,
It'd be a great idea to address our incoming new council people with their discretionary income.
Yeah,
yes,
That they
what a great idea.
Contribute.
yes. I think that's great.
Great idea, George. Well, that's great. So, yeah, hi.
No, there's a parking lot, there's an adjacent parking lot. Apparently, there's one owner of multiple parking lots. It's by Mile High Event Center down there. And there's one owner of multiple parking lots. So we're working to try to get parking what we can use that night. I think there'll be a decent amount of parking spaces, and also for folks that are multimodal or coming in different mode of transportation, the RTD is not too far. I think there's some buses and bike paths that can.
It's right along the South Platte,
Yeah.
like that too, so you can also ride right there easily.
We're by.
Is it accessible biking?
Very.
Okay, great. Great. And so if you don't know it by now, Keith Meyer is our current vice president. And he has an announcement, I think, he wants to talk about some future meetings. We're trying to get meetings back in the community like this. So I know, my neighborhood, Elyria, Swansea, will be hosting the April meeting. That's our plan. And the topic will be air pollution in Gloveville, Elyria, Swansea. But Keith, maybe you want to talk about now March. March is our elections. So Judy will be talking later.
At Swift
Mhm.
in March.
Yeah, so at March, Judy will be talking about the election soon, but do you want to just
Sure.
talk about future meetings that we've got planned?
Yeah, and I am going to try to make this real quick.
That would be great.
Yeah, so, I think everybody knows that Inc. had a challenging year in 2022. I am so proud to be a member of this board because I think the board really recognized some of the shortcomings, especially when it came to DEI issues in the community, and we really came together as a board. And so I know the Greek phoenix rising from the ashes. My background is in campaign work and communications, so I really like to use symbols and words in trying to project a new vision for this team. And I'm so excited to be part of this group of folks that have put together I think a really great year of programming for reaching out to the community and doing a better job, trying to do a better job, especially when it comes to DEI issues. I think I'd really like to think about having Inc. Use a vision for this year of every block, every voice, and really trying to make sure that we're getting out into the community and really trying to do a good job of making sure that, all neighborhoods are being spoken for within this organization. In March, we're going to be at SWIC down in Southwest Denver. We're going to do our own elections. Then we're going to do them around the city, which I've never been a part of, but I know they are a big part of it. So bring your neighborhood issues that you're working on in your RNOs. Jane's got a great lineup. Jane's going to be running that meeting. Has a great lineup of recycling, kind of 2.0 as well. And then we're also going to put together some election resources for folks in terms of what you can tap into online to view debates that have happened and other resources for the elections that'll be coming up in April. We're working on putting together a program on air pollution issues. Right up in Gloveville area. And we're really going to try to explore that issue a little bit more. I'm taking care of the May meeting. We're going to have it up on the north side at the Denver Elks Lodge. We've got 3 co-hosts already, neighborhoods, Sunnyside, Highlands, and Sloan's Lake that are going to help co-host that. And we're going to be talking about increasing membership and diversity within neighborhood organizations. What are some successful strategies that folks have had in their own neighborhoods And what are some things that we can continue to work on to really, build the diversity and the inclusion in our neighborhoods. And then I think in June, Adam's gonna help put together a program on alternative transportation around Denver and really try to hit on Vision Zero. And I was shocked at the mayoral debate a couple nights ago when there were several candidates that didn't even know what Vision Zero was, and the fact that it's trying to keep pedestrians safe. And so I think highlighting that issue. And then just finally, sorry if my screen's blocking these things. In the fall, we're going to work on some other topics. We're going to try to do a meeting on minority and local business ownership, trying to do an RNO 101 and talk about what are the tools that the city has that we can better educate RNOs about. Good neighbor agreements. I've talked to a number of RNOs that want to know more about good neighbor agreements and how they can be more effective because they don't feel like they're being effective right now. So that, and then, sometime this year, I think we're going to have another meeting on parks, open space and greening projects in Denver as well. And if there's anything else that's out there, if you have issues that you would like to bring to the table and talk about, please feel free to come and contact me after the meeting or online. I'll put my email address in the chat room as well. And hopefully we can work together to try to come up with some good programming and really reach out to a diverse section of Denver neighborhoods. If you're not already a member of the Denver Inc. Facebook group, please join. Please hop online and join Denver Inc. Facebook.com/Denver Inc. We're going to be trying to update that more regularly and get the word out about meetings. So
Great.
is all.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah.
Vice President. So I think next on the agenda, I had thought we were going to talk about the elections before our presentation. Okay, that's the agenda. So we want to put this together and not have a second thought. So we're going to talk to the main topic of the meeting today is about the I-25 corridor and Broadway interchange put forth by the city. I'm going to have Joel Noble from the Transportation Committee kind of conduct this. He's got some panelists he's going to introduce, and then someone from Dottie from the city, and we'll have a little time for discussion. Did we put the times up here? Because somebody's going to try to keep the time.
I'll be keeping time.
You okay, Joe? I mean,
Yeah.
Joel is really good at
We
it.
get to.
Yeah, I got it.
I'm getting it.
So,
I got it. This, right?
okay,
Is that-
as you all saw in the meeting announcement, the INC Transportation Committee at our last meeting forwarded to the delegates a recommended motion. I'm not going to read this entire motion. You already have it in your email, but generally this is a motion to support two neighborhood organizations near the I-25 Broadway interchange, calling on the city to pause the effort and take time to make some design changes that maintain access from area neighborhoods, including multimodal travel options and useful bike and pet facilities, and reconsidering a ramp that will wrap around the 800 block of South Lincoln and take out several houses. So the INC Transportation Committee, like any committee, can't take a position on behalf of INC. That's up to the delegates to do. Our process is we forward a motion to the delegates. We get a presentation on multiple sides of the issue here. And then there's a month for delegates to take it back to RNOs and talk about it. And at least a month from now, there will be a vote. It will probably be done electronically because it's easier than just whoever can attend the meeting in person. But today we're going to explore this motion. Our format is we have 10 minutes from the neighborhood organizations that brought this to the Transportation Committee. Amy Kenwright from the West Washington Park Neighborhood Association and Brittany Spinner from the Lincoln Street Community RNO together will have 10 minutes. And I'll be keeping time. If you come up here, we'll be presenting from, this is probably best in terms of being on camera and screen. And the slides will be run from here. And then we'll turn it over to Nick Williams, who's the Deputy Manager of Internal and External Affairs at the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, Dottie. He will have 10 minutes to talk about the city's perspective on this topic. And then Amy and Brittany will join Nick and we'll have 10 minutes for questions. So it's very concise. All the materials that are presented today will be sent out in email, so you can have them with you, as well as the recording of this presentation. And an entire half hour we spent on this that was recorded at the Transportation Committee will all be available to you as you take this back to your neighborhoods to consider your votes. So for the first 10 minutes, I'll turn it over to and Brittany. You get it over here to go next when you're ready.
Anyone ready to start the timer?
Start.
Okay, so for nearly 70 years, Lincoln Street was a quiet tree-lined residential streets. Throughout the decades, Lincoln and Broadway have suffered from several forced infrastructure projects that have transformed both streets into the highway-style infrastructure that you know today. Most projects were completed without residents' input and came as a surprise. It began in the 1950s when Lincoln was first converted to a one-way coupling with Broadway overnight. In 1955, the I-25 Lincoln northbound off-ramp was added onto Lincoln and Sherman. In 1964, a new on and off ramp was added, which demolished a block and a half of homes on Lincoln and separated the 800 block of Lincoln from its neighborhood. Then in 1971, again, without the neighborhood's input, the tree lawns were removed and it was expanded from 2 to 4 lanes to become an arterial meant to move out-of-town commuters quickly through Denver. Today, Lincoln has rightfully earned its place in Vision Zero's high entry network due to the high speeds and crashes. Similar forced infrastructure projects happened on Broadway as well and have diminished the powerful multimodal transit corridor that it once was. In 1999, studies began for the redesign of the I-25 interchange at Lincoln and Broadway in Ohio, where the city started to plan a new transit-oriented development at the site of the Gates Rubber Factory, now known as Broadway Station. The project aims to boost the area of South Broadway to create a new center of Denver, much like Union Station. The project's main focus is to become a major hub of multimodal transportation connections due to its adjacency to RTD's Broadway Station. Around 2006, planning and designs were developed for the interchange and a NEPA report was triggered. Originally, the plans for the Valley Highway expansion showed a sincere effort to reconnect the 800 South Lincoln block back to the neighborhood it was forcefully separated from, and it showcased a significant focus on the bike and pedestrian infrastructure. The plan also included the demolition of the existing northbound I-25 on-ramp. And the plan seemed to acknowledge the importance of the 0.3-mile connection between the neighborhood and the RTD Broadway station, and it removed the on-ramp from being a barrier. In 2007, 2 homes were left out of the historical review of the 800 block, even though all surrounding homes were surveyed at the time. With those 2 homes not reviewed, the plans drastically changed 2 years later, and in 2008, new plans were developed, and they now focus on a heavily car-centric interchange design with very limited pedestrian safety elements. The focus on the bike paths was gone, and the plans now surprisingly introduced the demolition of the 800 block of South Lincoln in order to accommodate a rebuild of the northbound on-ramp. A new flyover southbound wedge ramp over Broadway is installed, and the demolition of the existing southbound ramp will be installed as well. The reasoning for demolishing homes to rebuild the ramp was to increase speed upon entering the highway to allow more space for cars to queue. This plan has been approved mostly unchanged for 15 years. Between 2011 and 2019, the surrounding neighborhoods expressed numerous concerns about decreased safety for pedestrians, increased speed of already fast-moving traffic, cut through traffic into the neighborhood, car-focused infrastructure, and a major lack of connectivity between RTD's Broadway station and the neighborhood. The neighborhood expressed that this intersection already divided the neighborhood once and will divide it even further by making the Broadway station inaccessible. Again, the neighborhood's concerns and feedback were ignored. Finally, in 2020, the project started moving again with TIPS funding for the phase 2 segment 3, with aims to start construction the first quarter of 2023, and will encompass the areas shown on this plan. The neighborhoods took renewed interest in the project and have discovered that the project itself has not followed almost any of the goals that they listed in their own environmental assessment. More so, the TIPS funding application states that this is a first and last mile multimodal project. However, please take a look at the expected pedestrian walking paths provided by Dottie and ask yourself, would I walk there to access the light rail or the parks or the retail that will be adjacent to the Broadway station? All down here. Would I walk there? Where are the bike paths? And how does the future Lincoln BRT get incorporated into this plan? And these are just some of our answers.
So let me just summarize a little bit. West Wash Park is up here, our TD station is down here. Here are the things that we're unhappy with this design. We don't like that we'll have to cross 19 lanes of traffic to get 0.3 miles to the RTD station. We don't care for the slip lane that will allow drivers to avoid this light and speed up through Sherman Street. We don't like the adding of new lanes widening of Ohio to accommodate vehicles. Pedestrians and bicyclists are going to have to share a sidewalk while drivers get new lanes. Pedestrians are dumped into a parking lot, no matter how they reach the station. It's going to take out these 9 homes here and displace these neighbors who want to stay in their homes. And finally, we don't like the zigzag route that you have to travel to get to the station and the new amenities of the transportation at the TOD development. Why is it so complicated? Here's just a summary of what's happened since 2005. The Gates development, transit oriented development was proposed. That kicked off the NEPA process, which produced an environmental assessment. This superseded the 2007 environmental assessment that Brittany mentioned in the Valley Highway Environmental Impact Study. And between 2008 and 2020, phase 1 and phase 2, segments 1 and 2 were constructed. And in 2020, the current segment was funded by a Dr. Tom Tip grant. And then in 2021, there was a section 106 process. So I just want to point out that the goals in this environmental assessment were to provide fully integrated and useful bicycle and pedestrian facilities in the corridor, even if they weren't there to begin with. Click again. And also, maybe most importantly, when Denver applied for funding for this project, this was sold as a multimodal and first and last mile project. And what have we done about it? We've done an awful lot. I feel like we've done what we can to educate our neighbors and to collect feedback. You can see in 2021, things really kicked up again as we realized that this project was actually going to happen. We've over and over again raised our hand and said, we want some changes. We don't care for this. We want to be able to walk to our light rail station. I don't think I need to go through all. I mean, is there any highlights you want to?
There's just been extensive surveys, walking tours, newsletter announcements, and September 1st, the official decision letter from CDOT and Dottie that we are still waiting for a response on.
Well, in fairness, we are finally getting some communication from Dottie, and we really appreciate that. It's not the people we don't like, it's the system.
2 minutes left. Did you want to mention your survey?
Oh, yeah. So because we weren't getting a response from Dottie, we decided to put a petition together, and how many signatures do we have? 844 signatures on the petition asking Dottie to pause this project and take another look at making adjustments to make it more pedestrian and bike friendly. Oh, Canada letters or letters. Oh, we gave 4 mayoral candidates tours of the project, and that resulted in quite a few stories on the news, and one of the candidates writing a letter to the executive director of Dottie backing us up, so we felt pretty good about that.
Some support letters from
Greater Denver Transit, who else?
Mayor, Pedestrian Advisory Committee,
Oh, Pedestrian Advisory.
and the Baker Historic Neighborhood Organization also sent a petition opposing the project.
Thank you very much. We'll come back with questions.
And we don't want it to go away. Something has to be done. We just want to adjust it.
Okay, next we have 10 minutes from Nick Williams. Nick Williams again is representing the position from the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, everyone. Nick Williams. I'm a deputy manager with Denver's Department of Transportation Infrastructure. It was on the screen before, internal and external affairs, and that's just my kind of sneaky way of just being involved in everything on there. Now, this project, yes, this is something we've been working on for, well, I think as you saw, since the early 2000s, and really kind of formally in a lot more formalized work since 2008, so about 15 years on there. I don't think I have to tell this group, the city's values have changed, the city government's values have changed, and certainly Dottie's values have changed. So in 2019, you probably remember, the city made the choice to convert from a public works department to a Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. And this was really done to better reflect those values. Some of the specific things in there that were changed, not just the name, was a commitment to safety and really reinforcing our authority over committing to safety in the right of way, things like multimodal. A responsibility for ensuring multimodal networks and really making sure that we are working with the community on there. And so what we've been trying to do for the past, well, 15 years, but really in the last, gosh, we've been meeting formally, what, about 6 months. I think this is the first time we met in person, so we finally got to see how tall each other was on there, but have really been trying to take this, what is a very complex project with very complex funding sources, all with their individually complex timeframes and expectations on there. If you've gone through this intersection, you know that no matter what type of user you are, this is not a workable intersection on there. I live on Sherman. I use the Broadway I-25 bus stop every week on there. So I'm very personally familiar with this. What we've been trying to do, and kind of Brittany and Amy touched on it here, is really try to take what we have with this project. And as Amy and Brittany said, I'm not trying to throw this project out. I think we all recognize that that intersection needs improvements on there, but really go back and really listen to the community. And again, thank you to Brittany and Amy on really helping us with that. You know, using letters, a number of meetings with our executive director here this year. You guys have spoken at the advisory board, our Dottie advisory board meeting. I think that's been very beneficial and got a lot of very productive comments back in that. But what you guys are asking for, great news, that aligns with our department's values about making sure that all users, vulnerable users especially, have a safe way to move through our network on here. We saw there, this connects both the Broadway I-25 station, which I think is the third most popular station in the RTD system. We will at some point get the Gates development, or what was known as the Gates development on there, which will again be an attractor and really, I think, be a jewel of the South Denver area. I'm certainly excited about that. But what we've been trying to do and what our staff has been working on over the past, I mean, we'll just kind of talk about the last 6 months is really, take a look at this 2008 project, see how we can bring it in 2023 on there, and see how we can make it better reflect our values. What we are doing, and why I don't have slides, why I'm not going to go into great detail is we are actually meeting with the team next week to kind of go over. So we've had our planning team and our designing team out, have done a number of walks to really kind of look at, hey, with what we've got, what can we do to better reflect the needs of the community and the values of the city on there. I am trying to go into details on what that is. My opinion is that it addresses many of y'all's concerns on there, and really just, you know, what can we do both within the project scope and what can we do with a number of the other projects. As you guys probably know, the Broadway multimodal project is off and running again after some period of time on there. And so what can we do to make this project reflect our values while staying within the requirements to maintain our federal funding? We work closely with Federal Highway Administration, CDOT, and then locally here on there, and really make it an asset for the community, not to come in the middle of the night. And I love that historic. That is one of my favorite of your slides on there, and really make something that works for the community. So while I can't go into, I'm not going to go into great detail. You're going to see that next week. You don't want to get out ahead of this meeting and how we're going to share this with the community. I appreciate being here, and I look forward to, I don't have a lot more, so I want to make sure we got extra time for comments if that's acceptable. on there. And really, just be clear that we're aligned with the neighborhoods on here. There's certainly a lot of complexities and certainly things don't move as quickly as anybody would want, either the community, our staff, or anyone. It's a large system that we're trying to operate, and especially with these major infrastructure projects on there. But just really wanted to reinforce that, hey, we're your department. We're listen, and to that end, I'm very excited and I'm looking forward to hearing kind of comments, thoughts on this, and then very much looking forward to sharing additional detail on how I think we're going to make this a better project. So with that, I'll stop and you got a notebook, David's ready to go.
David, ready, if you'd like to join Nick up here, we'll do questions. I'm going to stand over here and call for people in the room as well as look over his shoulder on who's commenting online. Any questions in the room? Yes, Jake.
Hi, I'm just wondering, is there an estimate of how many people are going on I-25 to get from someplace north of Denver to someplace south of Denver or something like that? And then my second problem with that question is 470 privately owned, or is there a way that it can be free to take 470? So if you want to go from Fort Collins to Colorado Springs, you don't have to go through the middle of Denver.
I'll put the 471 first. That is a separate entity that manages that. So that is not something kind of we've looked at.
So is it privately owned?
I don't know the legal structure of it. I know the E470, so it's not a city and it's not state, but don't quote me on this. That is it's a separate entity, the E470 entity. How they're legally classified, I'm not sure. That's not something, but as far as traffic counts, that's certainly something we can look into. I'm sure we have it. I don't have it personally, but I'm sure that's something we can share with the board. Thank you.
Next question is from online. It's for the neighborhood. Which candidate came out in support of your call for the pause and the rethink? And has the local transportation management group like Transportation Solutions in Southeast Denver been helpful?
I don't think we ever talked to Transportation Solutions. And of the candidates that toured, all of them supported us verbally. Ortega was the one who wrote the letter to Phipps. And Ian Sequoia was the one who wrote an article in Westward about it. So it was Ortega, Sequoia, and Calderon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Question in the room?
They supported us.
For the neighborhood, you pointed out there's 19 lanes of traffic across into pedestrian. Do you have an alternative proposed for that?
Yeah, we don't want the funding. So there's two different sections. There's phase 2, segment 3, and phase 2, segment 4. Phase 2, segment 3 was that big plan that you saw, and that's about to break ground pretty soon. And so we are asking not to fund phase 4, which is the new rebuilding of the ramp, which will demolish the homes, and that will eliminate one of the 4 dangerous highway crossings to get there and make it an easier path to get to our TV station.
So that's a pretty major.
The current segment that's about to break ground is designed around the next segment that is not funded, that will remove and rebuild that ramp around this home. So that's why the zigzag route, because Dottie had to plan around this future project that we don't think should happen.
Can you see that map again?
Yes, while that map is coming up, but with next questions from online for Nick.
Yes.
Nick, we heard about this dramatic change that happened from the initial record of decision vision to the later decision. And so the question in that context is what value has been put on community engagement? And how does the city measure that, given that there was such a dramatic change?
Sure.
And then it's been so difficult for the neighborhood to engage with you the last couple of years.
Sure. You know, and I would say the city puts a strong value on community engagement on this. We've worked with organizations a number of times. Previous stages of this, we didn't really talk about kind of the exposition side, but had a lot of robust discussion with the neighborhood. There was, based on kind of the road design that was initially planned in there, heard the community saying that this is not what we're looking for as far as kind of how we were building a road, street parking, and then bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, so multimodal path along there. And there was concerns about how that would impact the community on there. After much robust discussion, we were able to come to an understanding, and literally an understanding, a memorandum of understanding on there, that we would design and implement that element of the project in a way that reflected the community's values. So basically, what I was saying is that is our expectation on how we engage, and that is what my expectation is on how we'll engage on now this phase.
Yeah, we'll go here first.
Just clarification.
Yes.
So the project that's breaking ground is designed to support the second phase that you don't want. So if you do that phase that's already funded, I mean, shouldn't you look at that phase before you commit to that, before you even know what the next part is going to be? It doesn't make sense to me that you would go ahead with something that is really being built just to support the next phase.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Sure, and that's a great question, and and this is, the complexity of these projects, the complexity of the phases. I still cannot get our phases segments straight. I feel like it on that, and the complexity of the different agencies we're working with. So to be very clear, we do not have funding, nor are we currently seeking funding for the final segment that changes the ramp on there. So we'll kind of put that there for now. Now, we do have funding, we do have agreements with funding partners on what the design of this current funding, basically my favorite picture up here demonstrated on there. And that is what we are making adjustments to. So while it is connected to segment 4, while it is connected to segment 4, it certainly is not precluding, we think we're still able to make amendments through this project and through related projects in the area that will reflect the community's needs on that. So it is not, the die is not cast on segment 4, and the die is not completely cast on segment 3, and that's what we're trying to work with.
Okay, so just a follow-up question. So you're working with the neighborhoods
Yes,
on the design of the phase that's going to break, that's breaking ground?
yes.
Is
The,
getting some consensus as to what that phase should.
so September 1st, the Lincoln Broadway corridor, Arno and West Park, put together 2 position statements with an addendum based on all of the outreach and the feedback from the surveys and the feedback from our walking tours and just general feedback that we for a year and a half that outline the specific asks that the neighborhood wanted and are concerned about. And those are the things that we are hoping to work with Dottie on to implement and fix for the this
One that's
part.
breaking
Yes.
ground.
Okay, did you have a question or was that?
Well, I have a quick question. The mayor's race, the outgoing mayor, incoming mayors, is that gonna affect any of this?
I don't know, but I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say yes.
Okay.
But I certainly don't know. Now, certainly if we were, well, I'm not gonna pontificate on that. That's only bad things be doing that
Okay.
on there, but as you can see, this has gone across mayoral, so 2008, coming from a Hickenlooper to a Hancock administration. Certainly the construction and what we end up doing with this project will extend into our next, whatever administration is, but beyond that.
It's also gone through 4 Dottie directors regarding.
We have 2 minutes left. We'll try to get quick questions in the room here, and then here, please.
So I think now is on every block, every voice. What I heard is that there are several houses taken out, and then I heard 9. Is it just the 9 houses?
So there's duplexes that contain, so it's like 6 houses total or 5 houses total with duplexes in it. We do have retirees, we have low income, and most of them are renters, and so there is an argument out there, like, don't worry about them, they'll get paid off. But they're renters and they've been there, one for 30 years, another one for 10. They can't afford to be anywhere else, and they do truly love their homes. They, a lot of people are like, oh, those homes are awful, they should just be demolished, but these people love their home and like living there.
And their homes were there before the highway.
Yes.
I think it's really important to listen to their voice, as you've already obtained 849 signatures for this. And if it's 15 years, I think that's important, and those people should be sitting there at the table expressing that.
Next in the room.
I just wanted some clarification. Has the pause been approved? Have you
Define
agreed?
pause.
So.
I'm gonna get lawyer.
Started with, we're asking that this project be paused so that voices can be heard. Have you agreed to pause it, and if so, for how long?
So again, you're getting a lawyer answer here. It depends on your definition of pause. I think we're kind of approaching this as we can walk and chew gum. So we have time limits on this one. And I think there's general consensus, there is a need for change in this intersection on there. So we are moving forward with elements of this, but we're not moving forward before we discuss with the neighbor on this and how we can make this better and how we can make what this project is, this needed project is, better reflect the community. So to say, I'm not sure what a formal pause would look like in this. We've been working pretty consistently on this for not just 15 years, but certainly on kind of how we're rethinking this project over the past 2 years, really increased intensity, as you guys pointed out on there in the past 6 months. So that's the best answer I can give you is we're walking and chewing gum at the same time. Elements of the project are moving forward. The project to move forward. As Amy Brittany said, we don't want this project ended. We don't want it thrown out. We want it to reflect, we want the outcome to reflect the neighborhood's needs and the city's values.
We get one more in the room here, and then we'll close.
Yeah,
To the pause.
So one of the preferences would be to not seek the construction contract at this time, so that the owners have some sort of calm. They have a lot of anxiety right now, and they think that at any moment their houses, as soon as those construction crews show up, their houses are going to be demolished. And the construction contract is sort of a symbolic measure of that.
And then last question in the room, Pete.
Well, this is more of a statement too, and I think we'd love to have you back for transportation discussion. I didn't realize this. I live over on the west side between Sheridan and Federal. And when I brought up at my RNO the other night, the speed at which people are traveling between lights on Sheridan and Federal, we just had another person killed by a car. And, you know, our council person was there and she goes, there's nothing we can do. It's a state highway. And so I guess my question is just, you know, you brought this up earlier that a value of Dottie seems to be speed and getting cars onto the highway quickly and getting transportation moving quickly. And I'm just questioning where that value is, like where does speed correlate with, you know, community and pedestrian safety and things like that. And does that come up in discussions at Dottie? And, you know, how does that measure in terms of where you guys are coming from?
The focus on speed may have been a public works.
Okay.
Kind of what I was talking about in the beginning, and maybe it didn't come across clearly. Yes, we are responsible for ensuring an entire networks movement throughout the city on there. But Dottie, and one of the reasons we went through our amendments, and one of the reasons why the public approved that change from a public works to the Department of Transportation is that traffic safety. And this is why you've seen an increase, I think since 2018, really a big focus on Vision Zero. Same feelings I think was commented about. I would love to see a little bit more nuanced approach in how the Vision Zero program is up. That certainly is a value. And that's what we're trying to do here is align this project, which, you know, effectively has 2008 core values with our values today on there. So I don't want it to come off at Dottie's. We come in there and we're like, that's the fastest way we can move cars through here on there. That's not accurate on there. This is a focus on vulnerable multimodal users and how that all interacts with the entire network.
And currently it does not follow any of the city's goals or plans, including Vision Zero, complete streets, or blueprint.
But I'm really happy to see Nick's outlook on this today. I think like the conversation is changing, so thank you.
Thank you. Let's thank our speakers and then I'll. So there's sort of two takeaways, I think, for us. First, in the longer term, in a month from now, this will be circulated for all voting delegates on this position. But it sounds like from Nick's presentation, we all should be paying attention next week. Because Nick was saying there's some stuff he can't talk about, please pay attention next week, so I'm incredibly curious what that's gonna be.
Stay tuned.
But I heard something.
Yeah.
Will be.
Well, I'll work with INC to help amplify whatever the neighbors pass along.
Well, I mean, should we be paying attention to 5 o'clock news on there?
This, you know, I don't control that aspect of it, but please stay tuned.
Thank you to the board for this time, returning to the rest of the agenda.
We're waiting to, the survey will be.
Will be
The
up
vote on survey.
a month from now.
Okay, so watch for that.
I'm just gonna go.
Okay,
Elections are next.
yeah, the next, Judy Baxter, our secretary, is going to talk about next month. We have the elections, annual elections. She's going to go for that, and I think we're doing okay on time.
Just,
Okay, Judy.
All right. all right. Hello, everybody. So you might have heard me speak about this on the last delegate meeting when we were all on Zoom, and now we're in person. So INC has its 2023 elections coming up in March. And before I get going, I really want to give a big shout out to Drew, who took this on as president, and we've had a lot of change and sort of reorganization that INC has gone through, and Drew has stepped up, stepped in, and given it his all. And I really want to give you. So I just wanted to review with people the process that we're going through, just to make sure it's really transparent to everyone. And there was a question on the chat earlier about how one becomes a delegate. And I'm gonna get to that, but we have a call for nominations 60 days in advance of the annual meeting. We've done that. We actually were a little confused back in January, and we had secretary on there, and that wasn't, I was about to become secretary, and it's really appointed for the remainder of the term, so secretary isn't on the thing. And our president position is, we have opening in president, and we can talk about that. Anyway, so we're identifying interested nominees through various methods. This is one of the primary methods to talk to you all, and who can be a nominee for any of the officer or at-large positions is someone who is a named delegate from an RNO in good standing as of the March meeting. So, and the question was, how do you become a delegate? And that's get to your RNO, find out who the delegates are, see each RNO who's a member gets 2 delegates, and how they distribute those delegates amongst their membership or amongst their community is up to the RNO. But there are some responsibilities to show up to meetings and be a voice for your community at the delegate meetings. So that's how you become a delegate, and we're just really, and what I need to do is confirm everybody's status and in good standing and get the names on the ballot and give them enough information that they know what's the basic expectations and responsibilities of particular positions are, and provide a brief, and I'll ask them, anybody, and there's a couple in the audience, to ask them for their vision about how they can contribute and what they see for INC and their energies and vision for coming onto the board. Okay, so we've completed this. So here's the timeline. The call for nominations is completed. Here we are. This is the last time at a meeting where we can take nominations from the floor. That doesn't mean I can't take nominations up to February 25th, because we need to do a little bit of work to confirm status and to ask for your vision statement and then get that put out to the delegation, right? So today or afterwards, you can contact me up to
February 5th, confirm the eligibility, and then we're gonna post those statements. At who's running for what, and post those statements, on the website and emails and announcements. And have those people show up to the January. Okay, back to the future, right? To the March meeting, and we will have a chance for people to introduce themselves in person. And so that's where we're going with that. I do want to say, in terms of who we're looking for here, this is where the rubber meets the road for diversity, equity, and inclusion in INC. It starts with gaining that diversity of geographic diversity, socioeconomic diversity, gender diversity, age diversity, whatever version of that you want to bring in. This is how we bring people in, is through the nominations, the officer and the at-large delegates. This is where we start with that, and we extend it out to our committee chairs and who's involved and in INC. And it's such an important place. And the conclusion is not only you're invited to the table, but you're heard. Your perspectives are heard. You're part of the consensus building about what needs to happen and how INC can be a force for good. And so including, and so that we can address issues of justice and equity appropriately. We need all of those lived experiences and visions to make that a really lively discussion for INC. So here's the open positions and the known candidates right now. And I want to stress, just because it looks like we've got some people up here, we can have people run for offices. And if you don't win the election, I've got a place for you. Trust me on that, okay? I can find a way to get you involved. So just finding out who's interested in being connected at this level and helping. So President Keith is running. He's currently our vice president. He will be running for president. The vice president slot, our board member at large right now, Joanna Rosa Sanchez. Nice sign, like signs. Thank you. I knew I was going to mess that up. From Harkness Heights neighborhood organization. She's putting her hat in the ring for that. Our current treasurer, Greg Sorensen, is running for, he's running for re-election in that position. We have 3 at-large positions open, one for 1 year to fill out a term of that, and 2 for 2-year terms. We have 2 candidates who have thrown their hat in the ring and who are here today. Amber Kraska from Harkness Heights and Ryan Wolf from Old San Rafael. And they just did a high five right there. Maybe you can stand up, say hi to everybody, but just say hi. And I want to, there are new candidates on this list. The rest of us have gotten INC's gotten our hooks into us. Let's keep waiting, right? Okay. So, but others are being sought. I really want to encourage anybody wants to work at the city level. Yes, represent your neighborhood's interest in your lived experience, but also think about the city. That's what I love. And I'm sticking around for this year's secretary, and Lamone Knowles and Adam Meltzer is Adam's here, Lamone's on screen, and they're sticking around, and there are at-large positions that aren't up for re-election. So put your hat in the ring, get involved by February 25th, and here contact info for me, because I'm the chair of the nominating committee, is to text or call and leave a message at my cell phone. How many people give up their cell phones at a meeting with 50 people? Seriously, people, I must really want you to contact me. And there's my email, my personal email, not my INC email. This is my personal email. And so step in and step up. We'd love to have you. Okay. That's it.
Judy, you have any question?
Oh, any nominations from the floor? Steve, thanks.
I don't have a nomination, but I do have a question.
Uh-huh.
Have the bylaws been changed so that we elect and elect the president and the vice president the same year?
I'm gonna ask,
Well, this is just, I will say this is a clarification to replace, or not replace, I'm sorry, fill out the remainder of Drew's term, which goes to next year, and I believe the bylaws, that's a Lou Rader's question. She is online.
Yeah, we have new layers.
yeah,
Yeah, to answer bylaws question.
Yeah, I'm here, guys. Do you want me to?
Yeah, let Lou, let's.
Lou, we can hear you.
Okay. Just a quick point on the president. When we redid the bylaws, we allowed for other positions on the board to be appointed. But if a president steps down, then it would be automatically filled by the vice president, and then it would be voted on at the next meeting. So so a president that steps down is always affirmed, if you will, by a vote of the entire organization.
Yeah, is that clear, Steve? I think what Lou Raiders is saying is that, look, the past president resigned in September, and then I, as vice president, assumed being president, and the bylaws state that that seat is open at the next annual election. So there would normally have been a vice president election this year, but there's also an election for president because the bylaws state that I don't get to fill that term. I would still have to run for re-election, which I am not. So is that clear, Steve? This is in the bylaws. It is a little confusing that to vote for a president and a vice president.
but their
So,
terms are different. The president term is just 1 year and will need to be
Yeah.
re-elected next year because it's filling out Drew's, and the vice president position is a 2-year term. So they are still staying staggered.
okay, any more questions about the election? Did we talk about how the election will be held at the meeting?
It's just, it will be held at the meeting.
Yes.
Inverted will be able to take votes, both in person and online. We've got a process for doing that. And that we've discussed and worked out. If it gets really complicated, we can go to an online Survey Monkey ballot, but it shouldn't, I'm not anticipating that, but we've got a backup plan should we need one.
Yeah, the election will be held like in person and on Zoom. So in person, you can raise your hands, and then on Zoom, they will raise the hands. It's not quite the secret ballot format, but that's something that we kind of have agreed on this method for now. We're still transitioning.
Yeah. We may do ballot.
Okay.
We may, yeah. we can
Yeah,
perfect
we'll-
this.
Three in person.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we'll get it all.
If you remember back in the old days, we actually had physical ballots, we can't really do that with people online. So, okay. That for the elections. I think we can go right to our next topic. Oh, sorry, Joanne.
Should ask if there's anybody on the floor that wants to run.
Oh, yeah, it is, and for people on Zoom, this is an opportunity at this meeting. This is the last opportunity to take nominations from the floor. So anybody that wants to run, you can put your hat in the ring, as they say, now at this meeting. Otherwise, you need to notify formally by email.
Judy, do you want to put your contact information back up?
Judy had her, or in the chat, maybe.
I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
Um,
all right.
And it's also published out on the website and that sort of thing, so.
Okay.
Okay, so we're running a little behind, but that's kind of normal. So we've got our next topic, we have the Office of Special Events here. And hi. And you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Jill Liss, and I'm the Communications and Engagement Officer for the Office of Special Events. And I am here with my coworker, Elise Newbert. She's an event permitting specialist with the Office of Special Events. And so I'm here today to try to give a quick overview about our office, what our work is, how we can support you all, whether you're an event organizer and or a community member that is impacted by events held in your neighborhood, and also talk a little bit about some changes to our application process and some tips for how to make that easy. So specifically for community events, if you guys are interested in holding a community event or you've been holding one for 10 years and you're noticing that there's some changes, to try to answer some of those questions. One of these, I'll let you do. Awesome, thank you. So our office provides support and issues permits for public events on public property. Public property defined as streets, parks, sidewalks, and alleyways for the most part. And public events, that are open to the public, so not private events, so not events that are like weddings or something just by invitation only. And so those range from farmers markets to Pride Fest, to Cinco de Mayo, to small community July 4th celebrations, as Judy knows. And we work mostly with 3 different types of folks. We work with event organizers, whether those are professional organizers that organize large scale events or volunteer organizer groups like RNOs and churches that might want to have different events. We also serve the community. So we support the community by helping with the notification efforts. We found this is very key for community members, business owners to understand what events are coming to their neighborhood, what they can expect as far as road closures, parking, noise, those kinds of things. And so we're here to support them. Also, just if there's ever kinds of ever challenges between event organizers and communities, then we'll try to help facilitate and problem solve around that. So we're here to help in that regard. And then our also third key partner is other city agencies. So we work with 20-some city agencies on different aspects of events. So DOTI for street closures, parks for park permitting, excise and licensing for alcohol, DDPHE for making sure that food is managed safely, Office of Emergency Management around emergency planning, DPD, DFD, many different. And so we are really kind of like this hub for events in the city. The Wild West graphic may be a little exaggerated, but really before our office was formed in 2015, it was kind of a free-for-all. If event organizers wanted to hold an event, they had to really kind of figure out on their own who they needed to go to for what permits. Did they really need that? Did they not? They were just not sure where to go. So we were kind of created as this centralized space for people to go to with those questions. Same difference for community members. If you had a problem with an event or questions about an event, you didn't necessarily know who to go in the city. So we are that group for you to go to for assistance. We were formed in 2015 under the mayor's office. In 2021, we were added to the City and County of Denver ordinance. So we are now our own kind of standalone agency. In January of last year, we started issuing and requiring an Office of Special Events permit. And so that was because we needed to, people had to get different permits for DOTI, Parks and Rec, and those kinds of things, and you still have to get those. But this provides an overarching permit to make sure that all those boxes have been checked. And also there were a couple items that were required by events that didn't have any specific department oversight. Community notifications is one of those. Emergency action plans are another one. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to keep folks accountable for those types of requirements as well. And then in November, we started to charge an application processing fee. We're going to talk about that. It's a very nominal fee. Also rush and late fees for events that are starting in 2023. So those are very new. We've been doing a lot of educational outreach to event organizers, et cetera, about those fees and our new application process, new permitting process. We've been doing a lot of outreach over the last couple of years. Overall, our goal is to support those 3 customer groups that I talked about earlier in planning and executing successful public events that are held on public property. And so that's what we're here to talk about. What does that look like? Compliance with a balanced experience. Balance for the event organizers, the businesses, the community. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about each of those. That is what in our mind helps support a successful event. Yeah. So City and County of Denver policies and processes are designed really primarily around safety. So making sure that the events are safe for the attendees, for staff and volunteers, that it also protects the surrounding community and protects public property and infrastructure. Timely submissions is one of those things that before we had our permit, it was really hard to keep people accountable and make sure that things were submitted on time. And this wasn't just because we wanted to check a box. This was because timely submissions are absolutely critical. And this was a hard thing for us to enforce. And honestly, some of the seasoned large-scale event organizers were pretty like lackadaisical about getting stuff in on time. And it is critical because it allows for thorough reviews. Many applications have to go to this department. Once that's done, then it has to go to this department. And when that's done, it has to go to this department. And so you can imagine that if things aren't submitted on time, how that can create a backlog. And for example, Dottie with road closures, they're managing road closures for 700 some events a year, construction, road repairs, those kinds of things. And so if they get behind, that can really create a cog in the wheel. So our compliance emphasis on timely submissions is really about making sure that there's time for thorough reviews, making sure that we can really take an overall city-wide look to make sure that there's resources available from DPD to Dottie to barricades, etc. It also allows us some time for problem solving and plan adjustments because people may think that they're going to come in with their event idea and it's going to go check, move through the processes, and oftentimes it's like, we didn't realize this, or maybe we want to change this, or we're going to do this different this year than last year, but not realizing that that begets maybe a couple other steps. So timely submissions, if I have one key thing you guys to take away today, that would be that. A balanced experience. This is really a challenge. As you can imagine, there are some people that love events and there are some people that absolutely hate them. And so trying to create a balanced experience for attendees, as well as supporting the event industry. Event industry is a business in, business industry in our city. So wanting to support their business efforts, but not at the expense of other area businesses, the brick and mortar businesses that may be unexpectedly negatively impacted by a farmer's market that comes to their block every Sunday throughout the summer. So really trying to work and balance everybody's needs, trying to find those spaces of successful overlaps that can be work for everybody. We want to make sure that it's not too disruptive to the surrounding neighborhood, and that too disruptive. That's a very loosely defined idea. Again, what's disruptive to you may not be disruptive to me, or it might be last week, but not next week. And so, is it an event that happens every month, or is it an event that happens once a year or every week? So it's just really, again, and neighborhoods are changing. The more mixed use that the neighborhoods become, where events were maybe always held was not a problem, now has extensive residents set up around the space. And so where the noise wasn't an issue before, maybe the noise is an issue now. And so it's just constantly a changing scope. Key to this balance is knowledge is power and notifications are key. Again, one of the things that we can now enforce is that community notifications are done. And so before it was like a please notify the community, but now we can actually, you will not issue an office of special event permit if they do not do appropriate notifications of the community. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. Organizer commitment to that is key. Again, some notifications are super easy, some are super complicated. Oktoberfest in Lodo, where it impacts blocks of businesses, or 2 back-to-back weekends is a different need than something else possibly. R&Os and city council offices are essential partners in this. We need your help. So one of the requirements is that the notifications are sent to the R&Os that are impacted by the event. We need you to open up your email boxes, read those emails that come in, and share that information with your folks. Because that's how we get the information out. So we really need city council offices and R&Os to do that part of the notification process. Our office also helps with newsletters, online calendars, Facebook, that kind of thing. But you all know everybody gets their information from different places. Talked about community notification. These are required, as I mentioned, now to receive the OSCP. Notification flyer is created as part of the application process. We review that, approve that, encourage you, remind you who you got to send it to by when. They need to be sent 45 days before your event, and again, 1 week before the event, as a reminder to R&Os and bids, city council offices, and the DPD districts. We work with DPD special events units often, but we want to make sure that the DPD districts are aware of what's coming up. We also do an internal notification, internal city notification every week. So again, trying to just hit them from every direction, making sure they see and are aware of what's going on. For those events that have a road closure or, and or have an expected attendance of 5,000. We also require that they hand deliver these notifications, like if it's in this park. Every house around this park should get a hand delivered notification on their door, as well as extending a block outside of the park. If it's the Colfax Marathon and it's all along Colfax from city end to city end, they should be hand delivering those notifications along the route and at least one block beyond the route. Some super large events also will do some direct mail campaigns and other things. We also encourage folks to reach out to the media to advertise, especially those large impact events, those kinds of things. I'm hoping that you guys have seen this. This is our notification template that we expect now and require event organizers to use. And so that's so that the information is provided. You know, we used to not have a template, so it was just all over the place. And sometimes people would write just paragraph upon paragraph of beautiful narrative about their events. We really want just people to be able to look at this, see the key road closure or event setup information, get contact information at the bottom. I kind of didn't continue to the end, but there should be contact information so that if you have questions, you can reach out to the event organizer directly the day of the event and get a hold of them. So that's just what I want to like, make sure you're keeping your eye out for this and then sharing that information with your members. So we talked about what makes a successful event. How we really support that is through our OSEP application process. And this is what we really wanted to talk about today, making sure that you guys are aware of what that looks like now. So I'm going to take a quick look. Does your event need an Office of Special Events permit? If it meets all 4 of these criteria, yes, you do. Open to the public, held on public property, is temporary in nature, and requires oversight or permits from more than one city agency. So for example, if your event is a very small event held in a park only, no selling of food, no alcohol, no big tents, no stages, you will likely not need to work with our office and get an OSCP. So if it's a very small park-centric event, it's likely you will not need to work with our agency. But once you start adding different elements, whether that's a road closure, alcohol, setting up a big stage, those kinds of things, then you will need an OSCP. And when you need an OSCP, this is what I want to recommend that you do. Start by going here. Go to the Office of Special Events page, denvergov.org/special events, and this is what you're going to see on that page. First thing is to start here. Click on the Special Events tab, and that is going to take you to everything you need to know, including a new event planning guide that's available in English and Spanish. So that's a PDF basically that you can download and look at your leisure and make notes on, and it's going to take you through all the process, all the different permitting items that you may need to consider, deadlines related to those, etc. Also within this page, you can also click through different items that'll take you through that guide in essence online as well. So there's a couple different ways. And then through this page, you will also be able to click and start your online application. Another item that I'd like to encourage you to go to on this page is the education programs and resources section. So this is where we have recordings of our lunch. COVID was one of the benefits of COVID, obviously, was to be able to realize the value of being able to provide information in an online learning space. And so we have recordings of many of our lunch and learns about ADA accessibility, about trash management, about different types of things that might be interesting or relevant to your event. We also have an annual forum every year. We just had that last month, and that's where we invite all the event organizers to the table to talk to them. We had about 130 folks come this year, to just talking about new things happening this year, things to expect coming up, extra help we can provide, those kinds of things, and we provide all the resources, the PowerPoint that was provided there, etc. On that page. So this is a great place to go to get some more information. Contact us. We are here to help. We are a customer service driven agency. We're here to help. So whether you have a question about, I'm thinking about this, what do you think, or you have any recommendations, or I'm stuck on this part of my application, you can contact us at any time. Once you fill out an application and submit that application, you will be assigned an event permitting specialist like Elise, and we have a couple other staff that do that job as well, to basically just help you through that process. If you need a lot of help and attention and handholding, we can do that. If you just need us to kind of check off some things because you've done this before and it's a pretty straightforward application, we can do that as well. So once you click on this special events webpage, this is what you're gonna see. You're gonna be able to download the special event planning guide, or you can kind of take yourself through the process here online. This does your event require an SOP, provides a few more details to help you decide whether or not you need to fill out an application. So beyond those 4 questions, there's a little bit more detail there. Pretend like you just kind of scroll down on that page. You're gonna see those. There's where you submit an application. So the main deadline you guys need to be thinking about is 60 days out before the first event day. You need to have your OSEP application submitted and ready for review a minimum of 60 days before your event. You don't need to wait 60 days, especially if you have a new or overly complicated event. We encourage 90 days. Feel free, we are getting event applications now for August and October. So feel free to, once you're ready, to just get in there and sign up. Application is ready for review. Once you provided some basic application information or applicant information, event information, a draft site plan, knowing that you may have to refine that as time goes by, a draft community notification flyer, preliminary park permit, or traffic control plans if you are closing down the street. Always start with the OSEP application first, unless your event is in the park. If your event is in a park, then we encourage you to first apply for your park preliminary park permit. And that's because park, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not always available when you need it. So there's the more pool, there's more weekends, there's rest dates to work around. And so because of that, we encourage you to start with your park permit to make sure that the day, the time, the place that you want is available. These are the new OSEP application processing fees. We did a lot of research going into this, did not want them to be prohibitive, but we wanted them to, us to help support our work in the OSE. So again, for these smaller community events, you may be talking about $25 to $75. For that, if you have a farmer's market, you just need to pay 1 fee for the whole season. If you have a festival that's lasting 5 days, again, just 1 fee for those 5 days. We also talked about the importance of timely submissions. So we have added rush and late fees. And let's say that your application fee is $25 and you accidentally don't get your stuff in and have to rush and pay a rush fee. That's another $25. So your rush and late fees are going to be equal to what you paid. However, we have OSEP fee waivers. We did not want our fees to be a barrier for community-driven events. So community events for the community, by the community, in the community. So we have created fee waivers. You can read through all these 3 criteria, but because of this audience, if you are an R&O and your event is expected to have 3,000 attendees or fewer, fee waiver. So and can I continue just in case I can cover what you need? So basically, you're going to fill out your fee waiver request. That's an item that's included in your online application. It applies to the application processing fee only, not any other city and county of Denver permit fee. So you are still going to have to pay your park permit fee unless you can get that waived in another way. Or you're also going to have to, pay for your road closure fee, those kinds of things. So it's only to the OSEP application processing fee. Rush and late fees still apply. And event organizers with waived fees are still accountable for meeting all CCD requirements. So just because you got a fee waiver doesn't mean you can just go do whatever you want. You still got to play by the rules. I put together about 3 slides worth of tips, things that we thought were common, maybe questions for smaller community-driven events. Have I mentioned not to be late with your application? Please don't be late. You're going to avoid rush and late fees, and you're also going to give us time to help you problem solve, because there's going to possibly be challenges you're going to need to figure out along the way. Road closures can be challenging. If at all possible, I personally would just recommend sticking to a park. Road closures are challenging because you have to fill out and pay for the DOTI permit. You have to pay for barricades, have them delivered, manage those. And as with any business industry, resources are scarce. Staff is scarce. When there's so many events happening over 4th of July weekend, barricades, you may not be able to reserve them. So if you are insisting on reserving them, make sure you reserve them early. Potential conflicts with construction and street repairs. I mean, I don't think I have to explain that. That could be a possibility. You don't have to worry about that. Access to driveways, parking lots, et cetera, need to be maintained. So when you think about closing a street, there's a lot of different things that you need to consider, making sure that you're not, John Smith can't get into his driveway, or apartment X can't have access to their parking garage. You're gonna have to maintain access to those folks unless you get permission. Again, that's just kind of a whole nother layer. So just mentioning that like that's one way to kind of keep your event more simple. DPD and other city resources may be limited on holiday weekends. Again, you all are aware of DPD strained resources, and so making sure that we have availability on a weekend when there is a Rockies game and a Pride Fest and a 5K, etc. You can imagine those resources getting strained. So just maybe think about that and plan for that, and maybe avoid those heavy weekends if possible. Certificates of insurance are something that's required for almost all events, and it's again one of those things that seems to be getting more and more expensive. And there was like this insurance business that you could get your thing through, get your insurance through, and now that's no longer available. And so I have heard from event organizers over the last year that it's a little bit more difficult and surprisingly expensive to get certificates of insurance. It doesn't have to be a deal breaker, but things to think about. It's easier to secure a certificate of insurance if you don't have alcohol sold or distributed at your event. Also, consider private property or having it in a community building where possibly insurance may not be required. Just again, some things to think about to try to simplify things. We are happy to help you. I'm not trying to discourage you, just want to be real about some possible problem solving. Keep food distribution easy. If you give food away for free, whether it was packaged or made, it's not a problem, doesn't require a permit. Pre-packaged food sold, you have to deal with sales tax, but you don't have to deal with a lot of other DDPHE permit issues and oversight. Food trucks, most all are licensed in the city of Denver, so just confirm that they are, and then you don't have to worry about it. They're taking care of the food for you. Be flexible. I've mentioned plans may need to be adjusted to accommodate deadlines that you didn't expect, or available resources, or maybe you just are strained with volunteers, and so you need to maybe restrain your event to a little bit more simpler format. So just always be flexible and think about what the most important parts are of your event, which is just bringing the community together and making that work around that, however else needs to be worked. The other thing, whether you're an event organizer or a community member that's paying attention to events in your community, here are some resources. Again, on this special main OSE page, we have a special event calendar. So as events work through our application system, they are added to this. It has the date, time, location, the event website for more information, as well as the event contact. So again, if you need to get in touch with the event organizer directly, you can find that information there. This is also a news and update space, so we add news and updates when they become available. We also have a monthly newsletter that if you're not receiving that yet, I highly recommend. It's fantastic, but lots of great information about what's going on this year, this month, those kinds of things. And then also we have an event organizer email. So once you fill out an application, you kind of add it to that list. But if you're thinking about, I want to be in the loop and hear what's going on for event organizers. So when I'm ready to start an event, I have some information, some knowledge built up. We also have kind of an event organizer distribution list that we send probably every 3 weeks or so. We've got to send updates with good, important information. And please, for today, just send me an email, jill.liss@denvergov.org. I'm going to leave this up here for permitting support. You can use that contact us space on our website or reach out to Denver Events at denvergov.org. If you have a question or concern about an event in your area, call me. And day of concerns about events, we get this question a lot from community members. It's Saturday. How do I get somebody's attention on something? I've tried to call the event organizer. Maybe they did. I would say start with that. Maybe they're not picking up. However, if it's a complaint that you have, like parking issues, someone's parking in the parking lot that they shouldn't, or they're illegally parking, or there's an excessive amount of trash or something like that. Even though 311 is closed on the weekends, it's important for you to call 311 and leave a message, because that gets sent to us and the related departments. And so we are able to track and note that those complaints came in about XYZ events. DPD non-emergency, and of course with emergencies, call 911. I will leave this slide up so you have it, and then
There's a couple questions
absolutely.
online and they're on the screen if you want to just
Okay.
answer them.
So Denver Days, when will applications for Denver Days open this year? We don't know. That is a mayor initiative, and Mayor Hancock will not be here when the next Denver Days schedule usually happens in the late fall, so we'll have to, they're figuring that out. That's actually not an event that comes through our office. There's like kind of a special Denver Days group that manages that, or has managed it in the past. So stay updated, sign up for our newsletter. We'll put information in there. If those applications are going to be accepted and that program is going to continue. So that's what I know about that. Yes, we maintain a calendar of events. It's right on our OSC page, denvergov.org/special events.
And I think Maggie put in the chat, just the link.
Oh, awesome.
Put to that, right in the chat for those online.
Just a quick follow-up to the question about the Denver Days.
Mhm.
Those are the block parties.
Yes.
And is that the only time that we can schedule block parties is during Denver Days?
So the benefit of Denver Days is that all the street closure costs were waived and
Okay.
the barricades were provided for free.
Mhm.
So as I mentioned, how complicated closing a street can be, that was to help folks work around that and create community. So you can absolutely have event on your street, or even more ideally in your park. So you can do that, you just won't receive the Denver Days benefits.
Okay.
Yes,
So do we need, if we have an event in the park, we need a park permit fee and a special event fee?
if you have an event in a park and it's a very simple event with like no food being sold, no alcohol, no large stages, those kinds of things, you will just need the park permit and you will just need to pay the park permit fee. If you are an RO, if your elements of your event make it such that you would also require an OSEP, an Office of Special Event Permit fee, then you would need to pay the park permit fee and the Office of Special Event Permit fee. However, as we talked about, there's waivers for RNOs, et cetera, that are holding events.
This past November, voters overwhelmingly voted yes for 306, the measure to bring recycling and composting infrastructure to all community events so that we have access to these things. How is your office involved in ensuring that this happens?
Okay, great question. So the Waste No More initiative, we are aware of that initiative. We've been working with the Waste No More group. I forget who that is in the
I'm
city.
actually the co-director.
I know you, okay, so like in the city, I know. Ian. Okay, oh, Brian, I'm sorry. Ian, okay.
It's under today.
Sorry, it was the hair, I guess. So we are working with people in the city that are managing that program. Are you in the city?
Talking Casser.
Casser, yeah, so we're working with Casser to understand how it exists today. We are trying to dig in. It's a huge lift, as you can imagine, for events many events are already doing, different types of waste management, and so they're all good to go, but there are a lot of folks that they haven't tackled this yet. It's going to be a huge expense and a big staff lift, but we're committed to supporting that effort and trying to give them all the information they need. So we've been recruiting event organizers to participate in the task force that is examining the Waste No More initiative, how it affects the event industry, to inform that group. We have a lunch and learn plan for the 22nd of February. So we are creating a lunch. We have an online lunch and learn for event organizers happening on the 22nd to share with them what we know to date, how we can help them to date, let them know again about the task force and how more information and more support will be coming to them to implement it. So it is very much on our radar.
Actually, I think it's the 21st.
21st?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I will make sure that information is up on our news and events space. Don't look today, wait, some end of day Monday, but I think that should be there. We've been sending out emails to our event organizers as well.
So Joe and T City Park West, if we're looking to just do like a meet and greet of candidates at like a rec center or something, do we go through this process?
So I didn't put this in the checklist box. We only manage events that are outside. So if you're in a rec center, we're just going to deal with parks.
Is there a secret to that? Because I'm getting the runaround.
The parks permitting to this.
So not the individual rec centers?
Correct.
Okay.
Right? So it's park permits at denvergov.org, I think.
It can be complicated. If there were any questions, you can always call our office too. Happy to navigate that process, but for rec center, it's honestly better to go to the rec center.
The rec center?
Than to the Parks Permitting Office. The rec centers are sometimes managed, not separately outside of parks, but, managed separately outside of parks. So they are there. So the best place to start if you're wanting to work in a rec center or with the parking lots, would be to go directly to the rec center, and then if they are, every rec center is a little bit different, if there is a process for that, they can then take it up their chain of command or their ladder to get it to the rec center. But if you ever have any questions, you like, feel free to reach out to our office, because, we will.
Thank you.
The other thing I would say is not just rec centers. If you have a park building like this building, start with the people who are managing that building. They will put you in touch with who you need to work with. So say whoever's managing the rec center, they'll put you in touch with the parks person who's managing the permit process for that facility.
You emphasize, or at least I'm coming away from this with the understanding that you only manage events on public property.
Correct.
What if a liquor licensed establishment has a parking lot that is not included in the licensed area where they can serve alcohol, but they want to have a special event in that parking lot serving alcohol? How does that tie in with?
So it doesn't tie in with us at all. If it's limited to their parking lot and that's a private lot, they would be working with excise and licensing around a special event excise and licensing permit. So it's with the excise and licensing department.
So if we have included language in our good neighbor agreements that talks about special events, is that gonna cover? I mean, we have a lot of good neighbor agreements that were executed long before the Office of Special Events got so special event. And I'm just trying to figure out whether the language we have includes what they want to do, which is most of the time only on their own parking lot.
So who is the good neighbor agreement between your RNO
and the license holder? The restaurant or whatever that wants to use their own parking lot for a special.
So I would assume that good neighbor agreement just applies to events that are on their and within their private property.
Well, the good neighbor agreement, any special event, if they want to close the alley in addition to their parking lot. I mean, the language that I've always used was more general. I'm just trying to figure out.
I think it's fine as you have it, because it's directly with that person or that organization, that business. And so whatever their scope is around their events, I think that would apply.
And I want to commend you for requiring notification of immediate neighbors, because a lot of times the RNOs simply don't have the time to go out and leaflet the immediate neighbors. And it's the immediate neighbors for, say, an alley closer for somebody who wants to do a jumbotron for a football weekend or a football game. Those immediate neighbors are the ones that are impacted by it. And I really appreciate that you require them to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for sharing all that information on your social pages and in your newsletters and everything. Because like I said, we're all a good big partner in that.
Right, thank you. We're gonna need you.
Yeah, we're gonna need to move on, but Greg, did you have a pressing question?
So this is a quick question. What about permits that are, or events that happen and are not permitted? For example, in Treatment Park, we have waves on Sunday night where 100 people will show up.
So I would call 311 to document that and call it the police non-emergency number if there's a non-emergency thing, because that's who can respond. And manage that on site and follow up with that after the fact.
So it's really hard because 311 doesn't necessarily respond.
No, but so what's important about 311 is that it's tracked. That is documented and tracked. And so it's important, even though that they can't respond, please make that call and make that complaint on that call so that they can track that and they have a system of who that gets those kinds of alerts. But then I would definitely encourage you to call it the DPD non-emergency number and get that on their radar as well.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Thank you very much. So we have two more, I think,
Well,
presentations, but Judy, you're putting this together. right?
Yeah, I was gonna do a little tips and tips from an RNO perspective with working on this, but I'm sensitive to the fact that we have we have another guest speaker for Viva Streets Denver, which is a really exciting piece. And I think you got the real gist of it. If you're an RNO, you really need to think about how many other agencies besides your park that you'll need. And if you have a street closure, even one for a little bike parade for a half hour around Richtofen place, one block, you need Office of Special Events permit and activities. So not everything will get you to there, but once you have one tipping point, even if it's a small, well, 400-person barbecue event in Montclair Park with a little bike parade, sometimes, and they've heard me say this because Elise, I've worked with Elise and over these last 2 years, and point one, once you're in, you've got your application set up, that's so smooth the next year. And two, they really help you. You should see my emergency plan, thanks to Elise. And so it feels a little one size fits all, like for the Abs Parade. When I was putting in my 4th of July application, they were working on the Abs Parade, and I really thought I was as big as the Abs Parade in terms of the kinds of hoops that you have to go through. Just get help. It will be more straightforward the more you ask for the help. And the same at the parks. The parks is redoing their processes as well in terms of you get an initial parks permit, and then there's another kind of confirmation process forms that you have to go through. Just discovered this for our Easter egg hunt and working that up. So just stay connected. And once you have that connection, then they'll get you through the pieces. And if anybody has any questions or wants some guidance, I'm also happy to be a resource for that. And in the meantime, Sam, the really exciting piece is from the Denver Streets Partnership and Sam McCourt. Thank you, it's me, the name thing. Come on.
You have 4 consonants that start your name.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna get this up for you.
Yeah, as we mentioned, my name is Sam McCrory. I work for the Denver Streets Partnership. If you're familiar with Denver Deserves Sidewalks, that whole campaign for August, we help kind of get some of that stuff rolling. And so a little bit about myself. I live in Cap Hill. If there's any Cap Hill residents here representing INC, that's where I'm at. I'm a car-free commuter, so I get around by bike transit. So I'm here to talk about Viva Streets Denver. It's a little bit bigger.
Oh, no.
That's right.
Here, I'll do it. Hold on.
But Viva Streets Denver is actually brought by the Downtown Denver Partnership. They hired, there we go, Denver Streets Partnership to help out with this project. If you're familiar with the term open streets or ciclovia, that is what this program is.
Use this. No, don't use this.
Okay, oh, we can see it. Okay, perfect. So Viva Streets, here are the basics for Viva Streets. Again, this can be a completely car-free environment on Broadway and Walton. I have a great map on the next page as well. About the basics, it's free to participate. You can start where you want, you can end where you want, you can do what you want, as long as you do between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. All the dates, which are right here, I will quiz you at the end, so please remember these. May 14th, which is Mother's Day, that's the second Sunday in May, June 4th, July 9th, and August 6th. Again, those are all Sundays, typically the first or second Sunday of the month. If you're familiar again with the open street ciclovia, this came rooted from Central America, Latin America, concepts where a lot of these countries do these things on Sunday mornings and things like that. So again, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The closures will go in around 7 a.m. that morning, and we're really anticipating a lot of people. We think that Denver is a great city to do this, and our corridor is a great corridor to do this on because of our outdoor nature that we have here in Denver, and everyone gets outside and does a lot of these things. So we're anticipating a ton of people to come out, 15 to 25,000 people come out to Viva Streets. So here's our map, which we can go, I'm not sure if we can slide down a little bit as well, but The route will go all the way up from, we'll start at the bottom there. The route will start. The southern terminus is at Alameda and Broadway, so basically the southern terminus of the Broadway business district. And we'll go all the way up to into the 5 Points neighborhood at 30th and Downing, which is way up there. So that's about 3.5 miles on Walton and Broadway. Again, all those roads will be, those two roads will be closed to traffic. Cross streets like Park, 20th, more higher streets that we need to have, vehicle access through. Those will be technically open to cars, but DPD and, oh, there we go. That was good. DPD and a lot of our volunteers will be out there making sure that people stay safe. As an event organizer, my number one goal is that everyone stays safe at some of these events. So, and also if you kind of can see the key here, we're going to have activity hubs, additional activity areas at First and Broadway, Civic Center Park, and then 27th and Welton, 5 Points Plaza, and some other ones spread out there. These are kind of, if you think there's going to be restrooms, there's going to be food trucks, there's going to be bike rodeos, kids bikes events, other stuff going on. They'll change from event to event. And that's why I'm here today is spread the word about this and also gain some ideas of what you want to see at Viva Streets as people who live and reside in the city of Denver. So we can go to the next slide as well. And you're probably wondering, Sam, why are we doing this? What is the whole point of this? So these are our vision and goals for this event. It's really about bringing people together. It's about exploring different neighborhoods. I'm not sure about you all, but in my mind, 5 Points, especially on Broadway, 5 Points and Baker seem really, really far away. I've walked this route like 3 times and it's not as far as you think. And once you get out there, you'll really notice that, man, getting from Baker to 5 Points is really not that hard and it's really easy when the opportunity is there. I'm sure as all you know, it was South Broadway, the Walton Street corridor. There's a lot of great historical local businesses along those routes. And so we want to support those businesses and bring people to those businesses. 2020 was a really rough year for a lot of small businesses. And we want to bring all that back and make sure those businesses prosper. And it's a great conversation we're kind of having about I-25 and Broadway. I think, again, this is kind of it as well as we're encouraging this healthy, car-free lifestyle, reimagining what our streets can look like in Denver. With the I-25 and Broadway project, that's kind of rethinking them. We don't need these big, wide streets to get people moving. And I think the Viva Streets project will really be able to see that where, hey, maybe we don't need 5 to 6 lanes on Broadway, that we can give more space back to people. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with this project. So here's how we want to get involved, and then we'll do some question and answer stuff as well. But really why I'm here is to spread the word about it and talk to you all about, are there good businesses? Are there good organizations who are kind of a good fit for Viva Streets who maybe can come out and support and give information about what they're doing great? Also, we're gonna need a ton of volunteers. So I'd love for this entire group, we get an INC group together to talk about Viva Streets and to get some volunteers out there to help out with things like traffic and security. And this is to support, these are 4 days. We're not confirmed for 2024. We need to do some survey and evaluation to make this something like those Latin American countries where it happens every single month, every single weekend. So we really think this is a great idea, and we want to encourage the sustainability of this project. So, and there's also some event logistics as well, but that's kind of all I have. There's one more slide. And it's kind of funny you mentioned your personal phone number. That is my personal phone number. So feel free to call me, text me, and you're like, "Ooh, it's great to do that." I don't believe in those Google Voice things where you call an operator and then they put you in contact with me. That is my personal phone number right there. Feel free to call, text, and then Sam at DenverStreetsPartnership.org. That's actually incorrect. Feel free to email me there. And then Ellen Fordhofer at the Downtown Denver Partnership. She is our program manager on this. Feel free to reach out to her as well. But that's all I have. VivaStreetsDenver.com is our website on this. There'll be some more upcoming updates on that in the next couple of weeks with volunteer applications, programming applications, how can I get involved as a food vendor, things like that. So keep an eye out on VivaStreetsDenver.com, and I'm sure you'll hear about this through INC as well.
Great, thank you.
Who are your partners on this? Have you reached out to RNOs? I mean, RNOs would be great to have. It's partners in like Denver and things like that.
It's kind of funny. Amy and Brittany already left already, but we've already had conversations with them. We had a great meeting with a lot of the Curtis Park, Walton Street neighbors on Tuesday morning. They actually advocated that they close Park to 30th down until 8 p.m. So we're kind of spitballing ideas with a lot of these folks. We met with, we talked to the transportation subcommittee. We met with Capitol Neighbors. I think I'm doing a webinar with them. Love to spitball ideas of what we're going on. So, and kind of to the point about off special events like flyering, I personally will begin walking the route again, flying every single business. flyering every single house along that area. So there's been a good chunk of neighbors we've already talked to, but there's plenty more. So if your neighborhood is affected by this or you want to learn more about it, feel free to reach out to me. We would love to do a presentation.
Hi, I've been to the Fat Tire Plastic and Fort Collins many years, and they always encourage costumes, and it's so funny, they encourage costumes.
Again, you can do whatever you like. Yes. I was.
I don't want to be the only one.
Yeah, again, this event is open for everybody, all ages, all abilities. You can bike, you can walk, you can scoot, you can do whatever you'd like. I was lucky enough to go to the Viva streets. They call it Stick La Via in Los Angeles. It was crazy how cool, like all the different bikes, things like that, people were dressed as. It was during the winter, people were dressed like Santa. But yeah, we're thinking about doing really cool like shout outs and things like that for people who do customize their bike, wear costumes, stuff like that. And so if you do something like that, some of our volunteers may stop you and ask you to be on the news or like be a part of our project. So yes, you can do whatever you like.
Can you talk about the application process and the business?
Yes, so like I mentioned, there will be an application that's coming out in the next couple of weeks. It'll basically be kind of like a Google form type thing. They will come out. They can basically do whatever they like. Businesses, we're going to give priority to businesses along the route. So if you're a business on Broadway or Welton, you have priority to take the space in front of your business. We're not going to put some other business from somewhere far away in front of yours. So you have priority there. And it's kind of if you want to be involved, you can. We're recommending a lot of businesses give out deals. They have some promotions going on because we want to attract people in there. So again, there will be an application coming out for a lot of those businesses.
Question and comment.
Yes.
I have both been in Portland, Oregon, which does this, which is great. I've also done Ciclovia, which I've been riding in Los Angeles with about 100,000 people. Unbelievable. So my only comment is make it longer. Make it as long as you can, because it's super fun and everybody comes out. And we want to go as far as we can through the city.
I'm right there for you. Again, this is our first year and we're looking to do that sort of evaluation. We're getting feedback from people saying, should we make this longer? Should we make it not just on Broadway, but other places as well? So feel free to come back. We have a question here, then we'll go back. Right now.
Okay, don't mean to be a one here, sounds like. But you're mixing bikes and scooters and walkers and everyone all together, and how do you keep everybody safe?
That's a great question. So the road will kind of function how a normal two-way road does. So people who are traveling south on Broadway and Walton will stay to the right side of the street. People who are traveling north will stay on the right, going north, stay on the right side as well. And we're kind of gonna, similar to how cars interact on the street. If you're gonna be going faster, stay to the left. If you're going to go slower, move to the right. Use bells, use verbal communication to say, hey, on your left, coming up behind you, things like that. Again, I think because there's gonna be so many people out there, I'm someone who bikes all the time and goes kind of quickly. There's so many people out there. I feel like people are gonna be forced to go a little bit slower and things like that. So yeah, obviously, there might be some kind of minor bumps and scratches, but that's kind of the model we're taking. So for any other questions, we'll go in the back. I know we're almost wrapping up as well.
So we've heard a lot of interest from the bicycle community, people who want to do brewery tours and all, but the problem is on Sundays, a lot of breweries start open until the event is almost over. And there's a lot of great breweries in the beginning of the route and also towards the end of the route. So it's a second extending the timing.
Yeah. Exactly. I wish downtown air partnership were here to hear that. And also folks from Dottie and everyone else at BPD. So we'll go to the back.
I was just saying, I've been to many of these, right? I used to work there off and on, and it's amazing, a lot of fun. Everyone decorates their bikes. Sometimes they have mini ones on weeknights during traffic, and it's strength in numbers, and the cars, they stay out of your way.
Yeah.
Just two things that, I know it's a short presentation, but it would be great to see focused on. One is kids, and I think working with schools and making sure that they know about that. And the other is, this just came up in the chat about a meeting that's going on separately, but I think accessibility and making sure that, it's an accessible event that's open for a lot of different types of folks that might not be able to get out on the streets.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're thinking about having some pedicabs, things like that going out. So if you want to access the South Broadway hub to the Walton Street hub, you can jump in a pedicab and get you from there to there. One of the things that I was not a huge fan of the Ciclovia event in LA is when they block off their roads, they put like police tape. So people actually, if they're on a local road, they actually have to go on the sidewalk and kind of go around. So we're having those conversations with Colorado Delegate about how we can make it really accessible for people who are nearby to just kind of ride their bike right on the route, but, and also another point about accessibility, about we're trying to get some street sweeping, stuff like that done before, because we don't want people, you know, glass, tires, things like that, and so, that's something. Let's go here first.
Because I'm interested from what you're saying. How, if you live on the west side and you want to get to the east side in your car or whatever, is this going to be totally blocked off the way they do for the Colfax Marathon? You have to go all the way down.
So let's say so if you're trying to travel from east to west, you'll be able to get cross Broadway at one of these proposed vehicle crossing points. So Colfax,
Okay.
6, and so again, it's basically gonna operate like a similar traffic light. Well, you'll sit and wait for everyone to go by on their bikes and walking, et cetera, and then DPD will come, they'll close it down, you'll be able to get there. But you're right, we do need to do a lot of neighborhood notification. I heard this in the City Park Friends neighbors meeting about, hey, I live over here, you need to get down there. And so utilizing news media, social media, a lot of signs and stuff like that along Lincoln, other side streets, be like closed road ahead, things like that to get people aware of this event, so.
Thank you.
Mine's just a quick comment. I saw this in Bogota about 10 years ago, and I was like, oh my God, Denver needs this. So thank you for putting this on, because I think this is just a start of getting Denver more bike friendly.
Nice.
So.
Glad to hear we have so many advocates in the room. That's awesome.
That's so great.
Yeah.
I'll stick around if anyone has any other questions or anything, so.
Great, thank you, Sam. Listen, I want to do just a check-in with the people on Zoom. Everything seems to be working pretty well in this room. But is everyone in Zoom, are you hearing things and seeing things? Do we just, you know?
We got a few comments that people were able to hear stuff.
So there's no complaints about not being able to hear or background noise or
I
anything?
think it all went awesome, Drew.
Okay, just tell you. I'm actually really amazed that we put together this hybrid format.
It worked.
We got these owls through Adam Meltzer, our delegate at large, and they've turned out to work amazingly. I think this is really hopeful for hybrid meetings, because we still try to have hybrid meetings for people that maybe don't even want to get out of bed on Saturday morning. Or.
I would also like to say, we're going to work towards making this even more user friendly. For example, I'm really glad Joanna brought her son here, but it would be nice if we could offer daycare for people who'd like to come in person, but for whom childcare is one of their dominant issues right now. That is, that's the hybrid option, the Zoom option, but that's where we're headed. In terms of our organization, it's on our radar screen, so just, and she's gonna make sure I stay on this about that.
Ryan, did you have a?
Yeah, question kind of related to future meetings, but some we are through June in a location. If we want to, for instance, Old San Rafael, I'd love to try to host an event or our meetings.
I apologize, I forgot to mention that. If you want to host a meeting, talk to us. We would love it. And we aren't actually, we don't have locations yet for June and for April. And they could be online too. We're still trying to get these things figured out. And so I think this is really a building year for trying to get all these out. But yeah, if you want to host an RNO meeting, please come talk to us. We would love to work with you and try to figure something out. So,
okay. Yeah. Another thing we try to do from the old days is usually at the beginning of the meeting, the host can just talk a little bit about their neighborhood. So that was always one of the things about Inc. I really loved, is you went all over the city. You got introduced to neighborhoods you might never ever visit, and you got to know new people. So we're trying to get back to that, and maybe a little less time spent online. So I think our next meeting, which will be the annual election in March 11, is going to be held, correct me if I'm wrong, at SWIP, Southwest Improvement Council. It's in a southwest Denver neighborhood. Jane?
This is 1000 South Lowell.
Yeah, the address is 1000 South Lowell, and that should be all on our website.
Lowell, West Mississippi.
Okay.
Lowell and West Mississippi. We've had meetings there many times before. We've had posted candidate forums there. It's great space. We're probably in the gymnasium there. So are there any announcements or anything that anyone wants to say? We're looking online too. George?
Yeah, one thing, remember that Park Hill's trending up again. And whether you're pro or con, your voice and your vote counts. Please take that back to your memberships.
Well, so it's the park.
Parkville Golf Course, yes, that's going to be on the ballot today. So, and he has hosted debates about that previously. It's on our website. We had a pretty extended, healthy debate on that. Any other?
I
Brian?
just want clarification, George, when you say it's coming up again, is there gonna be a movement?
No, it'll be.
It's on the ballot. The language was approved to put it up for, I probably misstated to remove the conservation easement on the park and let it out.
Remember, that's that $2 billion paid by you as citizens of this city, that's yours, that's your property.
Yes.
Well, I got some handouts here in case you want to get.
Okay, thank you, George. I'm gonna go to Maria first.
Yeah, on the same subject, I have literature too. I was, yes, for parks and open space, and we were behind the successful 301 in the fall of 2021, and people were asking, we have to vote again? So the answer is yes, you have to vote again. We're urging no on initiative 2.0. I also have literature, we need that conservation easement, we need that open space in our city.
Great, thank you, Maria.
So, last,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, we.
So I just wanted to
Great.
let everyone know that in the neighborhood cooperation in association with the League of Women Voters in Denver, Channel 8 is sponsoring forums for all of the candidates for city office, mayor, and council districts, and a forum on the Park Hill Golf Course. So these will be videotaped and they'll be available on YouTube, and we will get out all that information. The forums actually start a week from next Wednesday and go through, I think, March 3rd. So please pay attention to that because it's a great way to meet the candidates. And questions are being provided by League of Women Voters and INC. So if you have questions for your listening candidates or for the mayor, send them to me, treasurer@denverinc.org, and I'll submit them to the producers. And because they are looking for questions. So.
Great, thank you, Greg. In partners with League of Women Voters and Denver Decides to work on these elections, so it's something that's very central to AIM. Jane?
If I can add what Greg just said, they're looking for questions for each city council district specifically as well. So if you have a more specific question that you'd like to have brought up for your neighborhood.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Thank you, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
My name is Brian.
Brian.
I was gonna highlight off the PBS and televised functions for the debates. There are 4 Aaron Harbor PBS episodes. The first one is at Shorter AME on Tuesday, February 21st. And we have a couple of 100 tickets available for the live studio audience. So if anybody is interested, they can reach out directly to the Aaron Harbor Show or to the Tafoya for mayor campaign for more information.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Any other comments from online or anything?
Online.
Okay, wow, we're ending only a few minutes.
Okay. Here's the gavel.
Okay, I think we're adjourned for today. Hope you can make it to the March meeting at Swift
Or online.
or online.